Stepping on the demon gate and becoming the strongest demon woman. Introduction. In my past life, I was halfway behind in chess and ultimately missed the chance to reach the peak. Travel back to the past, this time. I want to become the strongest in this world. To become the strongest in this world, there are only 3 simple steps. 1. Found a newly crossed demon gate witch on the street. 2. Subdue demons and demons. 3. Bring her cultivation techniques. Okay. It's already invincible. Years later, Yen Yu, who gained the strongest reputation, was interviewed by a television station. Host. Who would you like to thank most for achieving today's success? Yen Yu. I want to thank a woman who is crucial to me. Host, eyes lit up. Oh, is she your virtuous wife's assistant? Yen Yu. No, it's just a stepping stone. Host, wiping sweat. So. What about the other teammates in your team? They should have also provided you with help, right? Yen Yu. How could it be that there is only one stepping stone for climbing the god's long step? Is what I said in chapter 1 correct? You are listening at novel full.audio. Under the darkness, the 2 figures appeared, one in front and one behind, chasing and fleeing. The black-clothed witch who fled in front of her, her body movements were swift and elusive like ghosts, bringing up large black mist and fishy clouds. The white-clothed fairy chasing after her was slower than her, but with the flying sword in her hand, she frequently blocked the escape path of the black-clothed woman, barely able to avoid being thrown away. Finally, the fairy in white caught a loophole in the opponent's true chi, and the sword light flew away like a trained horse, instantly piercing through the back of the black-clad fairy. The other party's body fell to the ground, and the fairy in white quickly rushed forward. Her divine sense probed into the body. Oh no, I fell victim to the golden cicada's escape strategy. This seems to be the body of a woman in black, but in fact it's just a puppet she threw out. The fairy in white was about to turn around and continued to search for the whereabouts of the witch along the road when she arrived. Suddenly, she only heard the police siren blaring, and the exit behind her had been blocked by several iron cars. The car door opened with a loud bang, and several uniformed people rushed down, pulling out their spears and aiming at her as if facing a great enemy. Stop. Don't move. Raise your hands. Listening to the noise in the distance, Yen Yu threw the soda can he had finished drinking into the nearby trash can. He lifted his head again and looked deep into the dark alley. A black-clad witch came out of the shadow, covering her abdomen. She looked as if she had been severely injured. Not only was her face as pale as gold, but her body was also shaky, as if she would fall and die at any moment. In fact, at this moment, she did run out of oil and her lamp had dried up. The woman in white was her archenemy, who pursued her for nearly 3 days and 3 nights, from Qingyun Mountain to the Endless Sea. As a result, they suddenly encountered a once-in-a-lifetime space storm at sea, and unfortunately, both of them were swept into it. After coming out, he was in this world. There are strange and eerie things revealed everywhere in this world, which is almost unheard of. Everywhere are towering buildings that pierce into the sky like mountains, steel carriages that have no magical power but can run on their own, and a large number of ordinary people without any magical power, wearing various fancy costumes. The most deadly thing is that the concentration of spiritual energy here is too thin. Casting spells is like igniting a fire in water, even the simplest spells require a large amount of true energy consumption. Even in this eerie world, the archenemy still bit her like a mad dog, and she could only run for her life all the way. Finally, she seized the fleeting opportunity and used the golden cicada's escape strategy to successfully shake her off. Next, we need to find a place to recuperate. The spiritual energy in this world is so poor that injuries that can usually be cured in about 10 days may take at least several years to recover here. Who? Watching the unfamiliar young man waiting for her at the alley entrance, the black-clad witch's heart flashed with a hint of killing intent, but she pleaded for help on her face and said, "Help, help me." The two of them who fled all the way must have alarmed the local government. That bitch can't find me. Maybe she will choose to cooperate with the imperial court here and launch a lot of eyeliner to search for my trace. I want to find a secret place to recuperate, so I must kill all the witnesses. I must not let them communicate with the court and bring my deadly enemy back. The black-clad witch secretly became fierce, but her face became even more tender and pitiful. She waited for the young man to approach and then resort to ruthless scheming, killing people and eliminating the root cause. Unfortunately, the true energy in the body is depleted. Otherwise, if we could just use a spell and kill him, would that be so much trouble? Yan Yu saw her pitiful and delicate appearance, but he didn't rush forward. He just calmly asked. Miss Zhao Yuanjin, the Taoist named me.Zhao. Zhao Yuanjin, the black-clad witch, was taken aback by the words. Who is this person? How could you recognize me? Seeing the other party dumbfounded and speechless on the spot, Yan Yu continued to maintain a calm and composed demeanor and said. Your master is the Hanshi Venerable of the CC sect. When you were 5 years old, you became a disciple of the CC sect. Your master values your qualifications very much, and even privately passed on the CC Dharma to you. Moreover, this secret technique can only be taught to disciples of the true lineage. In order to avoid jealousy and harm from your senior sisters, she advised you not to easily reveal it to others, right? Zhao Yuanjin's face suddenly changed. Since her master secretly passed on the story of the great silk drawing technique to her, she has never revealed a single word in front of anyone. Where did this person learn about it? Does this person have any divine eye that can see through people's practice methods? No. I just jotted down my mental skills from my master, and I haven't even successfully practiced them, let alone put them into practice. How could someone possibly see through it? Impossible, impossible. Absolutely impossible. Seeing the other person's expression shake violently, Yan Yu still wore a profound and inscrutable expression, and smiled meaningfully. What's wrong with what I said? Oh, you still have 2 senior sisters, right? Second senior sister doesn't like you very much and often uses harsh language to mock you privately. Senior sister takes good care of you, doesn't she? Also, in fact, your eldest senior sister is more cunning than your second senior sister. She saw that her master intended to take you as a true disciple, so she deliberately designed to remove you. The reason why you offended me.Xue of the Sword sect was actually because your eldest senior sister was behind the scenes. Even the secret treasure message you received was deliberately forged by her, with the purpose of making you collide head-on with me.Xue, who had just been killed and was full of hatred towards the demon sect. Speaking of this, guess who killed her junior brother? These words fell into Zhao Yuanjin's ears, and the thoughts and doubts that had previously troubled her in his mind were suddenly strung together like lightning. So it's her. That bitch. But compared to seeking revenge against his senior sister, Zhao Yuanjin was even more wary of the unfamiliar young man in front of him, and even felt a strong sense of fear uncontrollably in his heart. The other party's words are like swords, every sentence is like a knife, and each sentence can accurately state a secret recipe of their own sect, and these recipes should not and cannot be known by anyone. The only explanation is that this person, or behind this person, there is a great master of divination in the Book of Changes. The method of calculation is one of the most difficult methods to practice in this world. Moreover, due to their ability to pry into the mysteries of the heavens, they are easily punished by the heavens. Therefore, cultivators who are proficient in magic and calculation are all capable of managing the heavens and earth, calculating the universe, turning their hands into clouds, and covering their hands with rain. Even the leader of the Silk Gate would not dare to offend them. Otherwise, they will directly calculate your fate, manipulate your cause and effect, and easily design a plan to kill you. You won't even know who's harming you until you die. Zhao Yuanjin pursed his dry lips, feeling his legs soften in waves. Subconsciously, he wanted to collapse on the ground, but only forced himself to bow and bow, pretending to be pitiful, saying, "Little girl Mijin, pay respects to the senior, dare to ask." Yan Yu, however, quickly dodged her etiquette by walking briskly. "I dare not be polite, I was just ordered to paraphrase my master's words to remind you a few words. Your sudden fall into a space fissure and arrival in this small world has been clearly predicted by my master in advance. Wait for me.Host to cooperate with the court and mobilize a large number of minions to search the mountains and seas. With your exhausted body, if she finds you missing. Haha, I'm afraid it will be more or less unlucky." Zhao Yuanjun naturally knew that his true strength had already dried up, and he was no match for me.Host. When he was already at a loss for control, he quickly trembled and asked, "So, what should I do? I dare to ask. How can the heavenly secrets be easily leaked?" Yan Yu's expression suddenly turned serious, and he sneered, "If you want to spy on the heavenly secrets, can you afford the corresponding price?" "Oh no." Zhao Yuanjun's heart thumped, "I forgot. Like a peerless and powerful person whose fate is determined by the world, with only his guidance on other people's principles, how can anyone have the qualification to seek his advice?" Zhao Yuanjun, who had reacted, was at a loss. He was afraid that his reckless plea for help would fall into the eyes of the powerful person behind him and be seen as extremely impolite and offensive. He quickly bowed down again and begged, saying, "It was my rudeness. I was chased by someone before, and my mood was in a state of disrespect. I didn't pay attention to it for a moment, so I took the liberty of testing it out. Please forgive my sin, respected teacher. If there is any punishment, I will accept it all and never dare to complain at all." The larger the gate of the cultivation world, the more strict the class status becomes. Especially within the various sects of the demon cult, if you encounter those rigid predecessors who place great importance on etiquette and respect others, you must quickly beg for mercy and be humble. Otherwise, if the other party doesn't like you, they will easily slay you into scum and destroy your spirits. Where can you reason? Seeing Zhao Yuanjun's pitiful expression of being at a loss and bowing, Yan Yu was secretly surprised and smirked. Is this really the future Yuanjun demon emperor, who will dominate the world and dominate the world? That's right, Yan Yu is not a disciple with great abilities, but a reborn person with future memories. On the original timeline, me.Host and Zhao Yuanjun traveled together to this world. Me.Host, who came from the Orthodox Church, chose to cooperate with the authorities. In this magnificent era where spiritual energy gradually began to recover, she sought help from the Shuyuan website www.zhaoshuyuan.com to cultivate many cultivators for the country, ultimately becoming a hero admired by the people. Zhao Yuanjun, with a background in the demon cult, was forced to struggle all the way, facing the encirclement of me.Host and the authorities, enduring numerous difficulties and dangers without dying, and eventually growing into the immeasurable Yuanjun demon emperor. This forced me.Host to let go of her prejudices and negotiate with her, and both sides joined forces to fight against the extraordinary outside world. If Yan Yu had a choice, he would definitely use the advantage of a prophet to help me.Host, who acted gently and had firm beliefs. After all, this one was better at speaking. As for Zhao Yuanjun, due to her background in the demon cult, she belongs to the type of demonic woman who has an unpredictable and arbitrary temperament. She regards the lives of the weak as nothing but ants, and rashly seeking her is like seeking death. But the real problem is that Yan Yu has no spiritual roots in him. The orthodox cultivation method promoted by me.Host requires spiritual roots as the minimum talent requirement. What if there is no spiritual root? Sorry, you may not be suitable to become a monk. However, although Zhao Yuanjun's practice of the silk drawing technique was more difficult, it did not require any cultivation talent from the practitioner, making it Yan Yu's only choice. Why does Yan Yu know so much? Because the future Yuanjun demon emperor will have a big mouth personality that likes to show off, is easily attracted, and likes to boast about himself. After reconciling with me.Xue, she even collaborated with a television station to produce an extremely detailed documentary to promote her great achievements. The secrets that Yan Yu now possesses, which should not have been known to others, were all spoken by the future Yuanjin Demon Emperor, in a documentary. It was these secrets that she personally recounted, but now Zhao Yuanjin, who was still inexperienced, was frightened and worshipped as a peerless expert. Chapter 2. Backbone needs to be polished. You are listening at Novel Full.Audio. The reason why the Yuanjin Demon Emperor in later generations had the word demon in her name was because her personality was evaluated by modern social moral standards and had significant psychological defects. 1 is to bully the soft and fear the hard, 2 is cunning and suspicious, and 3 is unpredictable. Bullying the soft and fearing the hard refers to her treating the lives of ordinary people as worthless, yet fearing plum blossoms and snow like wolves and tigers. In history, Zhao Yuanjin fled from Jiangnan province to Nanjiang province in order to evade official pursuit and search. Along the way, in order to avoid the leakage of his whereabouts, he harmed countless innocent lives, causing extremely negative social impact. Cunning and suspicious refers to her never trusting others and only valuing her own strength. Even if Zhao Yuanjin later accepted the official recruitment and divided the country with me.Xue, he did not consider forming his own faction. She does not establish her own faction, does not accept apprentices, and does not preach the Dharma. Her only hobby is writing autobiographies, filming documentaries, and boasting about how powerful she is. Her capriciousness is the most criticized aspect of her. Before Zhao Yuanjin became angry, he always pretended to speak softly, in times of joy, but often intentionally angry. Perhaps she didn't want people to see through what she was thinking, but this capricious attitude undoubtedly made people around her accompany you like tigers, making it difficult for them to have any good impression of her. Of course, Zhao Yuanjin at this time was not the solitary and eccentric Yuanjin Demon Emperor in later generations, but that doesn't mean Yan Yu can take her lightly. It's around 1 a.m. now, and there aren't many pedestrians on the road. Although Zhao Yuanjin's clothing may be eye-catching, passers-by at first glance would only think she is a little sister in the Hanfu circle, and would not really think about cultivating immortality. The only thing to avoid is the ubiquitous street cameras. After all, after the official and me.Xue communicate and reach a preliminary cooperation, they will soon start searching for Zhao Yuanjin, the Demon Gate Witch, so she must not be photographed. Yan Yu is currently a day student in his 3rd year of high school. He has been renting a house near the school for almost 3 years and has already figured out the distribution of street cameras. At this time, he is just taking Zhao Yuanjin on various twists and turns, sometimes up and down the bridge, sometimes on the riverside path, sometimes even through bushes. In short, he tries not to take the right path to avoid entering the surveillance range of public cameras. There was indeed a place that she couldn't avoid, so she turned around and ordered her to use her invisibility technique, turning into a black mist and drifting by. Zhao Yuanjin was unaware of the existence of a camera, but he also noticed that Yan Yu's path was quite eerie, and many places even required him to cooperate invisibly. Could it be some kind of mysterious formation? Yes, since it's the powerful sorcerer behind him who wants to save me, he naturally won't forget to set up the corresponding advanced formation and block the path of the pursuers behind me. Just the footwork of solving the formation, why is it so strange? Not in the 9 palaces, not like gossip, not in the 7 Jews, not like the 6 wrens. It's like a child wandering around casually. No, don't be foolish, Zhao Yuanjin. How can you easily see through the thought pattern of solving the formation and steps of the formation set up by the psychic power? Who do you think you are? Just jot it down honestly. In the future, there will be plenty of time to study this advanced formation. Don't think about what you don't have now. Yan Yu, however, was unaware of Zhao Yuanjin's thoughts. He was only surprised to see her desperately memorizing the way, looking back and forth. Although she didn't explain the concept of camera to her, has she realized that the public environment is not safe enough. Zhao Paopao, who fled more than 1,800 kilometers from Jiangnan province to the upper reaches of the Yangtze River on the original timeline, has not been caught for 10 consecutive years. This sense of vigilance and crisis alone far exceeds that of his peers. Returning to the entrance of the rental house, Yan Yu took out the key from his pocket and silently opened the door. "Come in," he said. Zhao Yuanjun cautiously walked over the threshold while using the corner of his eye to scrutinize the anti-theft door. "It's strange that this door is made of gold and iron. For cultivators, even if it is made of refined iron, it is not worth a spell. No, how could this cave be so unguarded? There must be some powerful prohibition hidden inside." When he returned home, Yan Yu casually patted the chair next to him. "Sit down." Zhao Yuanjun sat down cautiously, with half of his buttocks resting on the chair, appearing quite cautious and not daring to shift his gaze. Seeing her well-behaved appearance, Yan Yu felt a bit amused. The Yuan true demon emperor was already bullying the weak and afraid of the hard. At this time, he was blinded by the information gap between the two sides and mistakenly thought that he had a powerful calculation behind him, so he dared not act rashly. As time went on, she quickly realized something was wrong and began to constantly test her true identity. However, the level of cunning and suspicion of Yuan Zhenhua Emperor is also rare in the world. As long as it is impossible to confirm that the master of magic and calculation is 100% non-existent, she dare not take the risk of angering the other party and take action against herself. Based on the above information, the answer to how to get along with her is readily available. Curling an eagle. The more you suppress and trample on her, the more she perceives that you are confident and fearless, and the more she fears the possible, powerful existence behind you. But if you treat her kindly throughout the process, it will make her even more suspicious of your identity. As the Yuanzhen Demon Emperor said in his autobiographical documentary, the demon sect never emphasizes gentleness, respect, and frugality, only ruthless exploitation of the weak. If you're not because you're weaker than me, why do you show kindness to me? So the logic of the demon gate which eating hard instead of soft is not an exaggeration to say it's just a case of doem. With this in mind, Yan Yu had already made up his mind, so he easily crossed his legs and looked at the timid, trembling, and helpless demon gate which across from him. He arrogantly ordered. "Since you choose to shelter at my place, don't you even understand the basic etiquette? Go get a bunch of grapes from the fridge and wash them for me to eat." Zhao Yuanjun was taken aback at the words and secretly gritted his silver teeth. He thought to himself, "Did you treat me like a servant?" She grew up in the demon gate from a young age and was accustomed to many ugly things that flattered her. She deeply understood the principle that only by being able to bend and stretch can she survive. The reason why this person in front of me is so bossing me may be due to his teacher's orders, deliberately checking if I am obedient enough. Even if I show even the slightest hint of rebellion, I must consider myself a useless chess piece and mercilessly abandon it. At that moment, she suppressed her displeasure and responded with a crisp voice, walking towards the iron box pointed to by Yan Yu. "Open the box door and air conditioning will rush out." Zhao Yuanjun was amazed and thought to himself that this item turned out to be a cold storage treasure, used for storing fine wine and food, but why was it so bulky? "Isn't it difficult to carry?" She had just taken out the grapes when she heard Yan Yu say again. "The kitchen is over there. Turn on the switch of the sink and wash the grapes clean. Gently rub with your hands to avoid any dust or skin damage. I'll rub your dog's head first." Zhao Yuanjun cursed inwardly and turned off the switch according to his words. He saw tap water trickling out of the faucet, and his heart was once again shocked. What a well-designed water diversion pipeline. If you dig a tunnel on this ground, water will flow into a stream, and the 9 curves will connect. It will have a unique charm of Jiangnan. Yan Yu didn't know that Zhao Yuan really wanted to pry off the floor of the house, but urged him to say. "Is it okay? Why is the movement so slow?" All right. Zhao Yuanjun carefully washed the grapes, put them in a porcelain plate, and brought them to Yan Yu with a smile, presenting them respectfully like a maid. Yan Yu lazily lay on the sofa without getting up, just pointing her hand towards her mouth. "Dan the thief, you still want me to feed you?" Zhao Yuan's true qi was rapidly deteriorating. But on second thought, the reason why he dared to be so arrogant and impolite was precisely because there was a powerful master of calculation behind him. "Damn it, I'm not willing to bend my knees to you. I just have to endure it for the time being in front of your powerful master." Zhao Yuanzhen suppressed the anger of being humiliated and patiently picked up a grape and gently delivered it to his mouth. Yan Yu ate the washed grapes and looked at her seemingly submissive but actually humiliating expression, only finding it more interesting and amusing. But even if it's a scorching eagle, it's important to have a balance between pulling and stepping, and to be able to send and receive easily. If you step on her too much, causing the other person to ignore and become aggressive, then it will be counterproductive. The big stick had already been swung, so naturally the next step was to give a sweet date, so he slowly smiled and said, "You shouldn't hate me because of this. The art of calculation emphasizes the importance of karma and retribution. You respect me from your side, how could you know that I won't help you in the future?" Zhao Yuanzhen's eyes lit up immediately and he asked, "How can I help you?" The witch couldn't hold her breath anymore. It's really hard to change her nature of being eager for quick success and instant benefits. Yan Yu said leisurely. "I ask you, do you want to defeat me.Xue? Think about it, if it weren't for the huge difference in talent and strength, I would have cramped and skinned that despicable person, bruised his bones and ashes, drained his soul, and tortured him day and night by his side." Thinking that she had caused him to fall into this unfamiliar world, Zhao Yuanzhen was furious, but his face was gentle and obedient, saying, "Now that the young woman is sheltering under the command of the master, the guests can follow the master's orders. I will do whatever the master orders me to do, just to save my life. I dare not think much about anything else." Before he could finish speaking, his chin was lifted by someone. Yan Yu gently pinched her chin, forcing Zhao Yuanzhen to look directly at her and arrogantly said, "Don't play tricks, it's useless to me. For the sake of your obedient service to me, I can reveal some future fortune to you at Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com, and listen carefully. Within 10 years, you will not be a match for me.Xue, after 10 years, your strength should be among the best. 20 years later, the momentum of attack and defense will change easily. Whether you want to kill or cut, she can only endure it. But the premise is that you must follow the fate and not make decisions on your own. Otherwise, if the middle path collapses, there will be no power to return to heaven. Do you understand?" Yan Yu's tone was profound, and there was also a mysterious smile on his face, which was unique to a godly figure. "Believe it or not, I'll draw a big cake here to keep you hopeful." Zhao Yuanzhen was struck by lightning. He first froze for a moment, then his delicate body suddenly trembled, and a blush of excitement appeared on his face. He said in a coquettish voice, "Is that really what the teacher said?" "That's nature," Yan Yu nodded calmly. Zhao Yuanzhen quickly exerted his associative ability. "Is this the legendary suggestion of accepting apprentices? As long as I follow the instructions of his powerful sorcerer behind me, the other party is willing to support me, even accept me as an apprentice, help me cultivate bravely and improve, pass on my secret method of moving mountains and filling the sea, and finally give me the absolute strength to easily crush me.Xue." In this moment, Zhao Yuanzhen looked at Yan Yu with a hint of dependence, greed, and craving in the depths of vigilance, and fear. In Yan Yu's eyes, she didn't know what kind of apprenticeship association she had. She thought she was going crazy to kill me.Xue, so she inexplicably smiled and remained silent. He is certainly telling the truth. Zhao Yuanzhen, the former incarnation of Zhao, even ran around and hid in Tibet, and finally became a big man with me.Xue. With her own help in this life, how could she possibly not win over me.Xue? Chapter 3. Practice with me quickly. You are listening at Novel Full.Audio. In the bathroom, Yan Yu, who had finished taking a shower, wiped himself dry and his mind silently turned. With the arrival of Zhao Yuanjun and Mei Yingxue, the curtain of spiritual revival will also be slowly lifted. In the next 3 months, the official team that successfully established a cooperative relationship with Mei Yingxue will cultivate the first batch of cultivators internally through a trial and error model, regardless of cost, through the massive cultivation resources collected nationwide. These cultivators are mainly composed of military personnel, characterized by absolute loyalty, and they will definitely not be able to get in. On May 12, during the National College Entrance Examination, an additional tube of blood will be drawn for the purpose of testing for the presence of spiritual energy in the blood vessels. If one is born with a spiritual root in their body, even if they are not proficient in cultivation methods, there is also a trace of fetal qi in their blood vessels, which is the innate qi, which can be detected by instruments. Out of the 10 million college entrance examination candidates, only about 400 with spiritual roots were screened out. Then, according to the location of the college entrance examination students, they were concentrated in 4 places: Shuzhong, Shengjing, Jinling, and Xingyuan for independent training. The 4 monasteries built in the west, north, east, and south have initially laid the foundation for the influence of the domestic cultivation world. And this group of cultivator college students, who were first recruited, just like the first group of college students who were admitted to universities after the resumption of the college entrance examination in 1977, many of them later became high-ranking and influential figures. That is to say, Yan Yu must pass the screening for the college entrance examination 3 months later. And there was no spiritual root in his body, so he had to obtain the silk drawing technique from Zhao Yuanjun and practice spiritual energy in advance. Although he was a mortal in his past life, he relied on his experience of killing from the mountains and seas of corpses to try to annihilate all the rebellious cultivators in the world and turn the tide alone. However, in the end, he fell short in chess and died with resentment. Perhaps this poor move is the difference between cultivators and non-cultivators. In this life, when I become a cultivator, who dares to block my path again? You have grown a few heads on your neck by touching it yourself. Is it enough for you to chop me off? Yan Yu wiped his wet hair with a towel, pushed open the bathroom door, and saw Zhao Yuanjun meditating and breathing on the floor. You can go take a shower now, Yan Yu pointed to the bathroom. Thank you very much for your kindness, Zhao Yuanjun said with a low expression, but I have a purification spell. The spiritual energy in this world is so barren. Do you still have Jinyuan to use the cleanliness mantra? Yan Yu asked with a smirk. Zhao Yuanjun remained silent for a moment and sighed. As Yan Yu said, the spiritual energy in this world is too thin. Even if she meditates and exhales for a long time, she hasn't recovered much true energy. It's really too luxurious to use it on the pure curse. Thinking of this, she nodded meekly and silently got up to take a shower in the bathroom. Yan Yu took his backpack and started doing his homework. Although the body is the soul of an adult from the future, it is a high school day student. Due to the harboring of witches at home, it is necessary to try not to attract attention as much as possible next. Otherwise, if the homework is not handed in and the grades decline, the teacher will notify the parents. When the parents arrive at Linen Prefecture from their hometown and find themselves hiding a witch in the Golden House, the situation will become extremely troublesome. He certainly couldn't explain to his parents that there's no need to worry about the college entrance examination. After all, the future will be the world of monks, otherwise he would only be sent to a psychological counseling institution by his parents. After finishing the homework hastily, Yan Yu saw Zhao Yuanjun, who had finished bathing, coming out wearing the pajamas he provided. The upper part of the pajama is raised high, while the lower part is empty, indicating that this witch has a strong foundation for evil. If not strictly monitored, she will definitely go out to harm the country and the people, endangering the people. Fortunately, I took him into custody and imprisoned him, which saved the people of the world from his torment. This is great kindness. Seeing Yan Yu openly scrutinizing her figure, Zhao Yuanjun felt a slight displeasure in his heart, but he didn't say much. Now that I am forced to rely on others to evade Mei Yingshue's search with the help of the opponent's sect, it is time to compromise. Of course, I cannot let the so-called virginity and restraint ruin the plan. She sat down next to Yan Yu and saw him writing something with a strange pen. Curiously, she asked. Is this doing homework? Do you still know how to do homework? Yan Yu asked in surprise. I'm joking, I can also recognize a few words. Zhao Yuanjun picked up his Chinese test paper and saw that he didn't respond, so he carefully read it. It's so strange, why is it all in plain language? Long-winded and verbose. And the font, why are there so few strokes? Are you going to take the imperial examination, young master? She smiled pleasantly. Just call me Yan Yu. Yan Yusen said, little master, and those who don't know think I'm a little monk. Reading is not for fame, but for cultivating one's character. Hee, you grew up in a demon's sect and don't know much about the world. You don't understand this truth even when you say it. Zhao Yuanjun felt a little disheartened, with a deep hatred in his heart and no anger on his face. He just silently swallowed his anger and wrote down this account for him in his heart. On the first day of my journey, although the little thief Yan Yu took refuge on behalf of his sect, he humiliated me with all kinds of words and used me as a servant. It's truly despicable. Nowadays, under the influence of others, the situation is stronger than others, and we can only temporarily flatter and keep this useful body. If there is a chance in the future, this revenge will be avenged 10 times. She had intended to please and flatter this young man, adding fragrance to his red sleeves and polishing ink with bare hands, at least before gaining the other person's trust. However, this world is too strange. Lights shine without fire, without the need for fragrance. The pen doesn't need to go over the ink stone, it automatically produces ink. Instead, it leaves her with nothing to do. After much thought, I still brought the washed grapes next to me, peeled them finely, and fed them to him. Yan Yu was eating her grapes and secretly felt something was wrong. This witch has always been capricious and unrestrained, flipping her face faster than flipping through a book, but now she is flattering her, there must be a problem. After finishing the last question on the exam paper, he placed his pen next to him and asked. Tell me, what's up? Cough. Zhao Yuanjun's mind was suddenly pierced by him, and he could only cough and respond casually, I'm just a little curious, young master. Yan Yu, it seems that you don't have any magical power in you. Did you use some secret technique to cover up your cultivation? I haven't officially started practicing yet, Yan Yusen said, I was about to speak when you took the initiative to mention it. Master said that the method he is practicing is not suitable for me. Upon hearing these words, Zhao Yuanjun, relying on his experience and sense of smell cultivated in the Demon Gate environment, immediately guessed the truth roughly. What is the unsuitable method? Most likely, your master dislikes your low cultivation qualifications and doesn't intend to give you the true inheritance bowl, right? She threw the pot containing grapes aside and didn't intend to continue serving this useless person. Just as she was about to sneer and sarcastically, she heard Yan Yu say again. My master said that the most suitable thing for me to practice is the silk drawing technique on your body. Ah! Zhao Yuanjun immediately panicked. If an ordinary mortal were to pry into this true secret technique, she would have already slapped the opponent with a backhand, giving them a powerful heavenly dragon and a plain hand craniotomy, letting them know what it means to be a toad hoping for swan meat. But behind Yan Yu, there is a master with great skill and calculation. It is the other party who is plotting this silk drawing technique, but how can one refuse it? It seems like I can't refuse it. Since the other party asked for this secret technique by name, it means they have already counted it in. Even if one stubbornly refuses, they may not be able to resist the supernatural powers of magic and calculation. One day, they may fall into a desperate situation of life and death by calculation, crying and shouting for the secret method to be offered voluntarily, hoping that the other party will be willing to offer kindness to protect their own lives. Rationality tells Zhao Yuanjun that even if he gives today, he must give, and if he doesn't, he must give. If you don't drink this toast, the next one will be a fine. But from an emotional perspective, she couldn't accept the idea of presenting the silk drawing technique without receiving any benefits. Seeing Zhao Yuanjun's gaze turning left and right, Yan Yu also knew what she was struggling with, so he immediately took out his trump card. Master said that if I inform you of this matter, you will definitely not be willing to do so. So let me remind you of another thing. The silk drawing technique can be practiced alone or in pairs, and the speed of improvement and the power of the dual cultivation are theoretically far superior to those practiced alone. Zhao Yuanjun was stunned for a moment, and immediately felt like a sudden enlightenment, his mind suddenly opened. After several improvements, the qi refining method in the silk drawing technique can now be used to compensate for the talent deficiencies of practitioners through the technique of puppets. The efficiency of introducing qi into the body and refining is limited by the innate limitations of one's own body. Therefore, it is necessary to use heavenly and earthly treasures to create puppets, pulling silk to guide them, allowing the puppets to refine qi and feed back the true element to oneself, thus bypassing the constraints of cultivation talent. The founder who was able to invent this secret technique is naturally a stunning talent. It is said that she fell in love with a man back then, but he had no spiritual roots in him and could not cultivate. His lifespan was only a short 100 years. It was only after her master put in a lot of effort to develop this unique secret method, in order to cultivate and prolong her lover's life. So in fact, from the beginning, the silk drawing technique was actually a dual cultivation version. Dragging silk was not originally a puppet, but a love silk. But the premise of dual cultivation is that both parties must trust each other without reservation. Double cultivation is not a one-way replenishment. True qi needs to constantly travel back and forth between the two sides of the body, transporting the heavens, and both are in a completely undefended state throughout the entire process. If one person acts maliciously and suddenly carries out an assassination plot, the other person's fate is basically neither death nor injury. Due to the cruel competitive atmosphere of the Demon Gate, it was extremely difficult to find a trustworthy dual cultivator. Therefore, later generations added countless annotations to the original text of the silk drawing technique, and ultimately used puppets to bypass the limitations of dual cultivation with humans. Although the efficiency of gas refining has decreased, the advantage lies in safety and reliability, to the extent that no one even practices the original version. Thinking of this, Zhao Yuanjun had already developed a clear understanding in his heart. The reason why he didn't teach Yan Yu other techniques was not because he didn't like him, but because he made it clear from the beginning that he wanted Yan Yu and I to practice the silk drawing technique together. Even the previous guidance to Yan Yu to save me and the subsequent protection from me.Xue's search were not from any kind intentions, but from this double cultivation idea. Chapter 4. Disgusting women stay away from me. You are listening at novelfull.audio. As mentioned earlier, the biggest problem with dual cultivation is that if you choose a dual cultivator, you can only practice with them in the future, and it is not advisable to change the method midway. However, the cultivators in the demon cult are selfish individuals with no moral bottom line. If it weren't for some deadly friendship, who would dare to trust others lightly? If the Taoist couple suddenly harbors malicious thoughts, seeks wealth and harms their lives, and stabs them in the back at the critical moment of double cultivation, it is basically a situation of 10 deaths and no life. According to Zhao Yuanjun's temperament, she would definitely not trust Yan Yu. But the problem is that she is already in the game at this time. If she refuses, will Yan Yu's master behind her let her go? If you refuse to agree to double cultivation, there is a high probability that you will not survive tomorrow night. Even without any means, just drive her out of this place and let her call me.Xue to find her. With a flying sword, Zhao Yuanjun has no strength against the enemy at this moment. But if you agree to double cultivation, first of all, for the great power behind Yan Yu, Zhao Yuanjun, as a disciple of double cultivation, has enough value, and there is no need to worry about being abandoned temporarily. As for the issue of possible betrayal by the Taoist couple, it will be discussed in the future. If we can't even survive today, why talk about the future? Although Zhao Yuanjun was cunning, suspicious, and cautious, he was not a typical and indecisive person. He quickly figured out the current situation and gritted his teeth, saying, "Okay, I'll double cultivate with you." "Magnificent." Yan Yu waved his hand towards the bed. "Please." "Wait a moment," Zhao Yuanjun asked seriously. "The silk pulling technique is a secret technique of our silk pulling sect, and it cannot be passed down externally. Since you have approved this technique, how should we divide the matter of orthodoxy?" "Master has already explained this matter," Yan Yu said calmly. "When you cultivate the golden elixir in the future, we will directly establish a sect. You have the lineage of the silk gate in your hand, and I have the lineage bestowed by the esteemed master in my hand. If you combine them into one, it will be the lineage of our sect. Can this also work?" Zhao Yuanjun was stunned. "In the realm of cultivation, as long as you have obtained the golden elixir, you are qualified to go out and establish a sect. As for whether the sect agrees, which teachings can be passed and which cannot, it all depends on the negotiation and communication between both sides. But this is a different world. No matter what you do here, how can the silk gate in the cultivation world know half of it? It doesn't really matter, okay?" Since that's the case, Zhao Yuanjun suddenly realized and nodded, "If one day I obtain the golden elixir, I will rebuild the silk gate here, and it will also be considered the kindness and righteousness of the sect's teachings. Undoubtedly, she is a demon gate witch, and her ideological consciousness is flexible." The two of them climbed onto the bed and sat opposite each other, posing with their hearts facing the sky. They only heard Zhao Yuanjun say, "If the silk drawing technique is practiced alone, it is practiced by cultivators and puppets to practice the Zhou Tian, but if it is practiced in pairs, it is practiced by Taoist monks to practice the Zhou Tian. The true qi can increase by 1/10 for each major Zhou Tian, and can merge by 1/10 for each minor Zhou Tian. If there is a fork in one's qi, whether it's you or me, it will ultimately be a win-win situation. So next, you must obey my command, follow my qi, and not act recklessly. Even if you feel pain, itching, fever, or cold on your body, you should not stop the movement of the martial arts without authorization, do you understand?" "Nature," Yan Yu said. Seeing Yan Yu's rare absence of a smile, Zhao Yuanjun also knew that he had taken it seriously and felt a little at ease. "Next, I will recite the mind technique for you. This method is a traditional secret technique of our sect and cannot be applied to paper or ink. It comes from my mouth and can only enter your ear, not let any third person know. Understand? Don't worry. Okay, just listen. The way of heaven damages more and makes up for less. Weigh things and apply them evenly, but that's just how it is." Zhao Yuanjun repeated the mental technique outline of the silk drawing technique, which was about 20,000 words long, several times. After confirming that Yan Yu had completely memorized it, he reached out his hands and pressed them against his palm. "Start double training." The orthodox practice of dual cultivation in Taoism does not necessarily include the techniques within the room. However, the silk drawing technique was created by the founder for her husband, so there is also content in that aspect when practiced to a higher level. Fortunately, both of them were just beginning to learn and have not yet reached that level of cultivation, so they just pressed their palms together to activate their true qi and silently meditated for the whole night. The next morning, Yan Yu picked up his backpack and reminded Zhao Yuanjun. "I'm going out, please stay here and don't go out, don't open windows, the curtains are all closed. If someone knocks on the door, don't answer, just pretend there's no one around. What if someone forcibly breaks into the cave?" Zhao Yuanjun pondered and asked. "You know invisibility," Yan Yu said. "Hide under the bed and wait for the other person to leave." What if the other party sees through? Zhao Yuanzhen confirmed and asked. Without hesitation, Yan Yu said. Kill, soul search, confirm the situation, don't I have to teach you this, right? No need, no need. Zhao Yuanzhen quickly waved his hand, thinking that killing was not uncommon, but those who could say the word soul searching without hesitation showed that our couple is not a kind person either. The master behind them is probably a hidden demon giant. Fortunately, I wasn't foolish enough to provoke the other party last night. Yan Yu didn't actually have much concern, because on the original timeline, the official didn't fully believe what Mei Xue said until the innocent passers-by killed by Zhao Yuanzhen appeared, and their attitude suddenly became stern. Now that Zhao Yuanzhen has been timely controlled by himself and has not produced any victims, the official attitude towards Mei Xue must be, I have recorded your statement, and we will further verify it. Very good, you can slowly verify it. Upon arriving at school, Yan Yu attended a high school affiliated with Jiangnan University, which had a very strict academic atmosphere. In addition, they were already in the second semester of their senior year, so they would constantly practice and write papers in class until 9 p.m. when school was over. In order to prevent early love from affecting the college entrance examination, all students have their desks arranged in a separate row, without any classmates, beautiful class monitors, or the school flower of the neighboring class, only a large number of eyeglasses students who are buried in solving problems. Therefore, campus life can be described as boring. After silently completing the paper given by the teacher and submitting it, Yan Yu left the classroom and gazed out at the scenery in the hallway, lost in thought. Last night, both Zhao Yuanzhen and I practiced the silk drawing technique and successfully developed a sense of qi. Next, we need to consolidate this weak true energy and ensure that we can pass the college entrance examination in May. Then, he went to the monks' college in Jinling Prefecture to enroll and meet his old friend, who had not yet known him in this lifetime. Qiu Zhe, Sun Zi, Lin Ning, Su Yunjin, and of course, the most difficult princess of Jianghai, Chen Lingyun. Oh, I really miss them. Hello, a familiar voice came from beside me. May I ask how to get to Building 5 of the experimental building? Yan Yu casually turned his head and saw the person's face in a moment. I saw the newcomer with a petite figure, not even 1.6 meters tall, it seems to be 156 meters in my memory. Looking for Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com, she had smooth long hair, a white dress with delicate lace edges, shiny black small leather shoes, watery and bright big eyes, a delicate Cheong nose, and a standard smile that was just about to show 8 shell teeth. Chen Lingyun. How did this scumbag woman come from Jianghai to Linen? It's over there, Yan Yu pointed calmly to the other side. Do you see that building? It's over there. Sorry, Chen Lingyun still maintained her charming smile. I'm a bit disoriented. Could you please show me the way? If it were other boys of the same age, under the attack of this disdainful woman's smile, they would definitely have been knocked out 5 times and confused 3 times, leading her on the way. Although Yan Yu knew her true nature early on, refusing at this moment would definitely arouse suspicion from the other party, so she pushed the railing and pretended to be free and easy to say. Okay. Chen Lingyun simply smiled elegantly and obediently followed behind him. Thank you then. The two of them walked out of the teaching building and suddenly heard Chen Lingyun ask. By the way, classmate, what's your name? Oh no, Yan Yu, who was walking ahead, let out a cold snort in his heart. When Chen Lingyun first met, she liked to pretend to be approachable, but deep down, she was arrogant and never looked down on remembering the names of miscellaneous fish. She would ask her own name, which means that at the moment she turned her head, the strange color subconsciously revealed had been caught by her, which aroused her strong interest. Sun Zi, Yan Yu replied calmly, what's your name, classmate? I haven't seen you in school before. My name is Chen Lingyun, Chen Lingyun replied generously, I'm from the Olympiad Mathematics class of Jianghai Middle School. I'm here as an exchange student at your Jiangnan affiliated middle school. Chapter 5. 3 Techniques and 5 Curses. You are listening at Novel Full.Audio. If Yenyu had a list of rebirth and revenge in his heart, then Chen Lingyun's name would definitely be at the top of the list, not one. There is no other reason. This scumbag woman has mocked him with her identity more than once. Oh, it's a pity you're not a cultivator. When going out to eat, when taking a walk after dinner, and when going to the movies, Yenyu also said that even before the cultivator went to war. Yenyu remembered clearly that this scumbag had mocked him a total of 137 times with these words on various occasions, as if he was inferior without spiritual roots. As a reborn person, it's normal for me to have a good memory, right? It's not because I hold grudges. However, did this scumbag woman ever come to Jiangnan affiliated middle school as an Olympiad math exchange student in her senior year? Yenyu has never heard of this before. Upon careful consideration, when Zhao Yuanzhen first crossed over to Linen Prefecture in his previous life, he killed several passers-by to silence him. Perhaps it was for this reason that Jianghai High School, where the disdainful woman was located, felt unsafe and cancelled the original exchange plan. Now that the witch has been subdued and there have been no murders, there have been no malicious public security incidents. Naturally, she was sent over according to the original plan. Is Sun Zi from the Olympiad math class? Chen Lingyun took the initiative to ask. No, Yenyu replied, I'm just an ordinary student. That's right, Chen Lingyun smiled and said, I made a mistake, I'm sorry. Yenyu did not answer, he knew the other party was making excuses to lure him to speak. The more she said and revealed, the clearer the personality portrait she drew in her heart, so she pretended to be cool and silent. Here we are. Yenyu personally escorted her to the experimental building. This is it, goodbye. He turned around and left without hesitation, while Chen Lingyun was not in a hurry to go upstairs, just smiling and staring at his back. School is over. Yenyu was walking home and found that there were many more uniformed uncles at the intersections than yesterday. He stopped people on the roadside to check his ID card. Although there was a student ID in the backpack, Uncle Uniform just glanced at him and waved his hand to let him go. It seemed that their goal for finding someone was quite clear, just looking for a young woman of appropriate age to search there. Returning home and quickly closing the door, Yenyu looked at Zhao Yuanzhen who was quickly approaching and asked her in a serious tone. How's it going? No one's coming, right? No, Zhao Yuanzhen said honestly. Yenyu threw away her backpack and lay on the sofa waving, saying. Come here, my back hurts. Press it for me. Zhao Yuanzhen harbored a deep hatred in his heart. Although we are each other, we are only limited to the cultivation aspect. Rubbing the shoulders and back. Isn't that what the servant girl did? She wanted to slap the humiliating thief with a single palm, but then thought of the powerful master behind him. She could only suppress her anger and go over to massage Yenyu's spine, secretly recording this account. Today, as soon as the little thief Yenyu returned from outside, he called on me to pinch his shoulders and beat his back like the following person. It's truly despicable. Let me take note of this grudge. One day, I will seize the opportunity to make him act like a bull and a horse for me to drive and relieve my hatred. How about it, is the strength still suitable? Zhao Yuanzhen thought to himself, but his hands didn't stop and he asked in a greasy voice, do you want me to use some more strength? It's okay, Yenyu suspected to herself. Yuanzhen Demon Emperor has always been cunning and suspicious. At this moment, he doesn't try to test what I've been doing outside all day, but instead obediently massages me here. What's going on? Humph, it must be plotting some kind of conspiracy in secret, but pretending to be gentle and charming on the surface, intending to numb my vigilance. Yenyu leisurely enjoyed the beauty rubbing her shoulders and suddenly said. Speak up. What did you say? Zhao Yuan was really puzzled. Tell me what's on your mind, Yenyu said calmly. What is on my mind? Zhao Yuanzhen was momentarily stunned, and his hand movements also stopped. Did this little thief find out about my grudge in my heart? No, he should have calculated it. Although this thief has never practiced qi refining with his master, he must have practiced his master's calculation method. Otherwise, how could he possibly know what I am thinking? Yan Yu noticed that her delicate hands on her back suddenly stopped, and she couldn't even guess that she had completely hit what she had expected. She immediately sneered and said, "Why, do you have the courage to think, but not the courage to admit it?" Zhao Yuanjun suddenly trembled and became more and more convinced that he had been secretly calculated by the thief. He quickly explained calmly, pretending to be calm. "I'm just daydreaming and won't really take action. What do you mind doing so much? As Taoist monks and fellow practitioners of the Great Way, we will naturally prosper and suffer in the future. Do you still worry that I will harm you and cut off my own path?" Hey, that's hard to say. Of course, Yan Yu is well aware of the suspicion of the Yuanjin demon emperor and would not completely trust anyone in this world. If she knew she didn't have a powerful master behind her, she might immediately cut her own neck and change her dual cultivation to a single cultivation method. Although the temporary reform may damage the foundation of the Tao, it completely eliminates the future hidden danger of possible betrayal by the Taoist couple. With the personality of the Yuanjin demon emperor, it is absolutely possible to do such a thing. To return from being an eagle, one must first master the strength of self-protection. Even if one is pecked by the eagle, they cannot die. Without commenting on Zhao Yuanjin's defense, Yan Yu simply said calmly, "Can I not know if you will take action? Let's not talk about this for now, let me know the methods of the 3 spells and 5 mantras." 3 techniques and 5 mantras. Zhao Yuanjin frowned and said, "What are you learning that for?" The so-called 3 techniques refer to the divine movement technique that moves at high speed over long distances, the cloud climbing technique that moves in short distances, and the wall crossing technique that ignores obstacles for displacement. As for the 5 mantra, it is a 5-element true character mantra that moistens, inflames, bends, resembles, and rushes, each of which has a unique and wonderful effect. However, in the realm of cultivation, the 3 spells and 5 mantras are similar to the addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division of the modern world. They belong to the entry-level spells that everyone in the monastic world knows. What does the thief specifically propose to learn this for? Yan Yu saw a confused expression on her face and smiled, saying, "With the current level of spiritual energy in this world, even if you have learned those super powerful Taoist techniques that can move mountains and fill the sea, can you use them? Zhao Yuanjin, I advise you to also practice the 3 techniques and 5 mantra, well, at least it will be more effective than anything else this year." A secret military base in Jianghai Prefecture. Mei Yingxue stood in the open hall, dressed in a Taoist robe, with her eyes closed to rest. After several layers of thick bulletproof glass at the top of the wall on one side of the hall, the relevant officials have already arrived. Not only that, there are also several cameras shooting from multiple angles, transmitting data in real time from the confidential link to Pingjing, where higher-level people are watching the live broadcast. Mei Dao Chang. The loudspeaker in the corner sounded, "You can start now." Okay, Mei Yingxue opened her eyes and said calmly, "Your spiritual energy in the world is too thin, and I cannot use many Taoist techniques. Here, I can only demonstrate the 3 techniques and 5 mantra to you. This is a divine act." Her figure suddenly disappeared and then appeared at the end of the hall. After the bulletproof glass, the officials remained expressionless, and their minds were blank when searching for the Shuyuan website www.zhaoshuyuan.com. After a moment of silence, Chen Tianming, the governor of Jianghai, spoke up first. "Did you take all the photos?" "It's taken." The person next to them quickly operated the computer, slowed down the shooting footage, and then broadcasted it on the projector. Through slow-motion replay, everyone has seen clearly this time. Mei Yingxue first stepped out with her left foot, then lifted her right foot off the ground, and then suddenly accelerated, flying forward to the end of the hall, then landing with her left foot, and finally landing with her right foot. She continued to take a few steps to stop the charge. From a purely motor perspective, she just took a simple step. But according to the data from the motion sensor, her speed reached 16 meters per second in an instant after taking a step. This kind of super acceleration, which is almost impossible for the physical body to achieve, has shattered everyone's worldview and cognition. Jiangnan Prefect Lu Jinyuan tried to calm down and confirmed, she wasn't wearing any equipment, was she? No, someone next to her immediately presented a security report. She only had a silk robe on her body and there was no hidden equipment inside. Don't forget, fellow villager Huang Wenqing reminded beside her, what high-tech equipment can make a person reach a speed of 16 meters per second in an instant. And she doesn't look anything unusual. Don't rush to draw a conclusion, said Governor Chen Tianming, let her demonstrate all 3 techniques and 5 mantras. After all, there is a black history of the popularity of Qigong in the 1980s, so the identification of non-natural things must be cautious, and even more cautious. It is best to find traces of fraud, if not. We can only send the people to Pingjing and have the experts in the capital study them. Anyway, Jianghai Prefecture cannot make any conclusions on this matter. Chapter 6. Yan Yu never holds revenge. You are listening at novelfull.audio. So, have you all learned? Zhao Yuan asked incredulously. How much effort can I put into just 3 spells and 5 mantras? Yan Yu said contemptuously, isn't it enough to just listen to them once? Or did you learn them for a long time? It hasn't been long, Zhao Yuanjin said stiffly, I've been studying the 3 arts and 5 mantra for about the same amount of time as you. This is a lie, in fact, it is the most difficult elephant curse to learn among the 5 mantras. She learned it for 2 days and 2 nights in the beginning. By the way, Zhao Yuanjin asked tentatively, Master Zun said that with the current world spiritual energy concentration, the 3 techniques and 5 mantras are the most cost-effective Taoist techniques, right? When will there be a change then? About a year later, Yan Yu glanced at her sideways. Why, can't you wait any longer? Jinyuan's reply is too slow, and he can only use the 3 spells and 5 mantras. After all, he feels a bit unsafe, Zhao Yuanjin flattered. If he encounters a big demon, he may not have the strength to fight back. In a world where the upper limit of spiritual energy only supports 3 spells and 5 mantras, what kind of big demon can appear? Yan Yu sneered, there are no wild animals nowadays that can even activate spiritual intelligence. Don't worry too much. Even if the upper limit of spiritual energy is increased and the true element recovers faster, Mei Yingshue's recovery strength is also greater. Why don't you go to bed quickly and double cultivate with me? Okay. Zhao Yuanjin got up from the sofa and hid his hidden thoughts in his heart. Continue to flatter and numb the vigilance of this petty thief. When the time comes, let him kneel down and taste all the humiliations I have suffered in the past. No, 10 times. Another night passed. The next day, Yan Yu returned to school as usual and continued to study the college entrance examination questions. If sleep is the recovery of the body and mind, then practice is the recharge of the body and mind. After meditating and refining qi with Zhao Yuanjin all night, Yan Yu not only felt no drowsiness at all, but also felt energetic, as if he had slept for 12 hours. Unfortunately, the daily lives of high school day students are too boring, especially since they already know they won't be able to take the college entrance examination. Doing these papers is even more meaningless. Just to be inconspicuous. As usual, after finishing the first submission of the exam early, Yan Yu arrived outside the corridor and boredly gazed at the distant scenery. Yan Yu, classmate. Chen Lingyun's crisp and smiling voice echoed beside her. Yan Yu turned his head with a displeased expression of, why is it you again, and saw this petite girl, who was 1.56 meters tall, with a sweet smile on her face, as if she was not angry at all for being played with yesterday. I asked someone to check the name, Sun Tzu-yi. Chen Lingyun smiled and said, I only found a high school student named Sun Tzu-yi, and she is still a girl. The reason why I use a pseudonym, Yan Yu said. Chen Lingyun politely closed her mouth, meaning, I'm all ears. It's because I don't want to tell you my real name, Yan Yu said seriously. So it's like this. Chen Lingyun narrowed her eyes and continued to smile, but for me, if it's something I'm interested in, I must figure it out. So you have already heard my name now, Yan Yu nodded. Are you satisfied? Not enough, Chen Lingyun stared at him with a smile on her face. I have a premonition. What premonition? Leaving aside her premonition, Yan Yu, who was very familiar with her in her past life, has now begun to have a bad premonition. I think you know me, Chen Lingyun said with a smile. My first impression of you is that this person seems to know me, but he's deliberately pretending not to. The subsequent process of leading the way confirmed this point. You showed a cold attitude towards me and deliberately used a pseudonym, but according to your classmates' statements, Yan Yu is not a cold, isolated, or deliberately socially excluded type. That is to say, you only chose to deliberately distance yourself from me after recognizing me. Firstly, I think relying solely on premonitions to make judgments is a very unreliable thing, Yan Yu said helplessly. Did you rely on premonitions to solve your math Olympiad problem? Secondly, even if we have met before, what then? What valuable thing is there in me that deserves you to deliberately approach me? The first point you made. Chen Lingyun's smile remained standard enough to reveal just 8 teeth, but there seemed to be a hint of happiness inside. I don't need an absolutely reliable premonition. Completely solved math problems are boring, and only puzzles that don't know the answer have the meaning of exploration. As for the second point, I have already said the answer. At first, Yan Yu was slightly taken aback, and then immediately realized that she was referring to what she had said before, if it's something I'm interested in, I must figure it out. You see. Chen Lingyun smiled even happier as he saw a slight change in his expression. You can quickly understand the underlying lines in my words, which is not something that ordinary people can do. I have come up with 2 possibilities now. First, you and I belong to the same group of people, we have the same level of intelligence and thinking patterns, but I have a slight understanding of your previous grades in various subjects, so it seems unlikely. The second possibility is that you not only knew me a long time ago, but also spent a long time with me, thus cultivating enough understanding. But I can be certain that I have never seen you, nor have I seen anyone with a similar personality to you, and there is no possibility of an old friend suddenly disappearing and undergoing plastic surgery, so why are you so familiar with me? She slowly leaned over and stared into Yan Yu's eyes, her delicate and beautiful face carrying a brilliant fake smile. Yan Yu felt a bit restless. This scumbag. Why are you so curious? However, what Yan Yu knew better in her heart was that she had indeed aroused Chen Lingyun's interest. No matter how much she disguises and defends herself afterwards, it will only make her more happy. This scumbag woman is a pure 100% joy monster, and looking at people around her is like looking at toys, and she cannot follow her thoughts. Hee, since you must suffer for yourself, then I'll play with you. Okay, I admit it, Yan Yu said helplessly with a look of, I'll confess. Believe it or not, I'm actually your future husband. Oh. Chen Lingyun raised the corner of her mouth, without any hint of being taken advantage of her verbal anger. Are you a rebirth, traveling back to the past? Or have you seen the future from somewhere? It's not important, Yan Yu waved her hand. What's important is that what you're thinking now is, I'm definitely lying to you, because your father has the power to decide your marriage, and I don't have any value in being valued by your father. Well, it's reasonable, Chen Lingyun nodded with a smile, but even if you can guess my current thoughts, it's not enough to convince me with this. Let's talk about something that only you know yourself. Yan Yu said in a low voice as he looked at no one around. When you were 6 years old, you once had a stray cat. In the small garden behind your villa. You spent half a month completely mastering the behavior patterns of this cat, including when to eat, when to sleep, and when to please its owner. Then you completely lost interest in it, ignored it, and left the feeding job to your aunt. Then, a week later, the cat ran away and never came back from the book garden www.zhaozuiyuan.com. Your father comforted you, and you smiled and said let it go. You didn't really want to continue raising it anymore. But in reality, you were very angry. You never told anyone, and that was the first time you lost your composure because you couldn't accept the cat abandoning you as its owner. Although you neglected it first, you didn't allow it to leave you without permission. You decided to keep this grudge for a lifetime. Chen Lingyun's smile solidified on her face, her eyelids slightly sunken, and her eyes were somewhat obscure and dark. Her gentle tone remained unchanged, and she smiled and said, "It's very interesting. Well, I'm sure I've never told anyone about my true thoughts deep down at the time, so could you tell me more about how we met and fell in love in the future? I'm quite interested in that. Are you interested in this?" Yan Yu smiled happily, "Great, because I'm not going to tell you." "What?" Chen Lingyun widened her eyes and smiled in surprise, "Aren't you my future husband?" "That's right," Yan Yu said softly with an equally gentle smile, "but in this life, I don't plan to be with you anymore. Just like that cat. I've already dumped you, Xiao Lingyun." Chen Lingyun's fake smile quickly faded completely from her face, leaving only a dark, cold and slightly angry expression, staring at him without blinking. "Oh, right, right." Yan Yu became even more joyful and applauded, "What I love the most is your expression. Do you know, Xiao Lingyun, I also really like your polite fake smile that is usually aloof and looks like a fool to everyone, but what I prefer is your expression that completely darkens your uncontrollable smile. Ha ha ha. I never tire of watching it." Chapter 7. Yan Yu, do good deeds without leaving a name behind. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After school. Chen Lingyun sat in the back seat of the car, with an unusual lack of a smile on her face. The female driver looked at her contemplative expression through the rearview mirror and couldn't help but speak out. "Miss, is there something wrong at school?" Chen Lingyun lifted her head and revealed a standard, perfect, and impeccable ceremonial smile. "It's nothing, Sister Lu. I just encountered some interesting things." "Oh," the female driver asked casually, "is it an interesting person or something interesting? Are you planning to report to your father?" Chen Lingyun asked with a smile. "It depends on what's going on," the female driver replied. "If it's not something important, I wouldn't bother him either." "That's it." Chen Lingyun was lost in thought. Yan Yu's despicable face came to mind, and she suddenly had a sudden impulse. When she looked up again, she had already put on a bright smile. "It shouldn't be anything important, Sister Lu. I just might have met someone I like." The steering wheel shook for a moment, and the shocked female driver quickly put it back to its original position, then tried to calm down and trembled, saying, Miss, you're joking, right?" "I hope it's just a joke." Chen Lingyun's smile became even brighter, and her eyes sparkled with joy. "It seems like a child has seen their beloved toy." Yan Yu returned to the rental house, and Zhao Yuanjun quickly welcomed him. "Someone knocked on the door outside today," she said with a friendly expression. "What did they say they came to collect?" "Sobbing fees." "You didn't open the door, did you?" Yan Yu raised his eyebrows coldly. "No," Zhao Yuanjun flattered and said, "I just prepared the Chu curse and planned to kill her when she forcefully broke in. But she knocked on the door and found no response, so she left." Yan Yu's gaze swept over the living room and confirmed, "What do you usually do at home?" Zhao Yuan sincerely said, "Aren't you capable of calculating? Why are you still asking me?" "Oh, I understand. Knowingly asking, testing my honesty, what a cunning and cunning thief. She silently recorded this account in her heart. Today, the little thief Yan Yu deliberately provoked and questioned me, causing trouble. Let me take note of this grudge. If he were to turn over the main body in the future, he would definitely make him a servant and cause trouble and humiliation recklessly, in order to avenge this. I meditated and vomited in the morning, replying to Zhen Yuan. Zhao Yuanzhen harbored resentment in his heart, but said honestly, I watched that TV for a while in the afternoon. Has this witch learned how to watch TV? Yan Yu was secretly vigilant in his heart. This TV, it is said to have been left by the previous tenant, and the landlord was too lazy to take it away. Unexpectedly, it has now become a channel for fairies to learn about external information. The more this witch knows, the harder it is to deceive and control her. I mean, the harder it is to lure her towards goodness, which is quite detrimental to her growth. But if we were to move the TV now, it would seem too deliberate. How could a talented disciple be afraid of her watching TV? It's really damaging. Well, just let her see and put on a posture of everything is under control, letting her continue to be suspicious. So what have you been reading? Yan Yu sat down on the sofa and asked calmly. I watched a folk opera called Wife's Lies, Zhao Yuanzhen said with a dry smile. Although it depicts the family background of a commoner woman, it excels in the ups and downs of the plot, which is often unexpected and somewhat interesting. Yan Yu was stunned for a while before realizing that the so-called folk opera watched by this witch was actually a midday soap opera aimed at housewives. Something is very wrong. This demon gate witch has always been fierce and easy to kill. Even if you're watching TV dramas, you should watch those bloody and terrifying themes. Oh, this kind of drama won't pass the review, so it's okay. In short, soap operas don't have much information, so they are just used to pass the time, so there's no need to worry too much. Yan Yu, did your esteemed teacher give any instructions today? Zhao Yuanzhen asked. No orders, Yan Yu waved his hand. Master, he's busy and hasn't contacted me. That's it. Zhao Yuanzhen was full of doubts, thinking to himself whether there was really no connection, or whether the content of the contact could not let me know. As soon as Yan Yu saw her stiff smile, he knew that the witch must be suspicious again. He said leisurely. Even if given orders, with your incomplete cultivation, how much can you help him? Don't forget, you can't even leave this door now. If you go out, someone will find you, and then me.Xue will come knocking on your door. With a few swipes of the flying sword, the beautiful woman is about to disappear. Knowing that I cannot do it and still willing to do it is the only way to show my sincerity. Zhao Yuanzhen was not ashamed or distressed upon hearing these words, but instead solemnly and faithfully said, although my cultivation has suffered greatly now, if my respected teacher has orders, not to mention going to fight against me.Xue, or even going up and down the mountain of swords in the sea of fire, I will not hesitate. Why waste this body? You flatter me too falsely, Yan Yu said disdainfully. If me.Xue stood at the door with her sword on her back, you might have jumped out of the window and fled long ago. Why do you have the authority to respect your teacher? Before the words could be finished, someone knocked on the door outside. Yan Yu quickly stood up, looked at the door, and then turned to look at Zhao Yuanzhen. I saw this witch also staring wide-eyed, like a startled bird, at the door. She held onto the window frame with both hands, and one foot had already stepped onto the windowsill. Yan Yu quickly shook his head and pointed under the bed, meaning, roll under the bed. Zhao Yuanzhen quickly rolled on the spot and plodded into the bed. Yan Yu opened the door from inside and saw two uniformed uncles standing outside, saying, Check your temporary residence permit. Are you the only one living in this room? That's right, Yan Yu nodded and said, while moving half of her body away, allowing the entire room to be visible in front of the two uncles outside the door. The doors of the toilet and kitchen are open, and you can clearly see that there is no one inside. The only things that can hide people in the room are the bed and coat cabinet, but checking the temporary residence permit does not require searching the cabinet or looking under the bed, which is actually too deliberate. The two uniformed uncles exchanged glances, stating that the criminals were extremely vicious and would kill the residents in their hiding places. Therefore, their task was actually to pretend to check temporary residence permits, but mainly to investigate every residential area in their jurisdiction and confirm that no one died silently at home. As for searching cabinets and the like, it can easily cause disputes with residents. So, unless there are clear eyewitness reports or clues pointing to them, it is impossible for every household to search like this. Student ID: Are you a senior high school student? Living alone? Yes, Yenyu nodded and said, I was just reviewing for this year's college entrance examination. Oh, Uncle Uniform nodded to indicate his understanding. High school seniors are a powerful buff. Who dares to disturb their revision? Parents have to come and work hard with you. After confirming again that there were no issues with the student ID, the two uniformed uncles turned around and left. Yenyu closed the door again without any nervousness in his heart. To be honest, even if the other party comes in and directly lies on the floor to look under the bed, as long as Zhao Yuanjun spends the remaining true yuan and uses that invisibility technique, he can still make the other party not see anything unusual. However, this search is really lenient, and it is completely incomparable to the grand scene of searching mountains and seas in previous lives. Upon careful consideration, if Xiao Yuan were to choose a nearby house to hide and kill someone as he did on the original timeline, the severity would immediately increase by several levels after the body appeared, and eventually become a search for mountains and seas. Fortunately, I rushed over in time this time, subdued the witch and picked her up for education. Not only did I save a few innocent lives that were originally in vain, but I also saved valuable grassroots security manpower for society. Alas, as someone who likes to silently contribute to society, without leaving a name or seeking anything in return. Even if the witch is fierce and serves the country and the people, I will spare no effort. Yan Yuji turned back proudly and saw Zhao Yuanjun rolling out of the bed, with dust all over his robe, face, and arms. Go wash it clean, he said softly with a gentle and indulgent smile. If you leave a little dust on your body, you can sleep in the restroom for me tonight. Chapter 8. The Story of Cherry Blossom Stealing Treasures. You are listening at novelfull.audio. March 25, Saturday. Yenyu got up from the bed and calmly glanced at the phone alarm clock. The memo reads, Qiantang River Tide. He silently put on his clothes and prepared to go out, only to hear Zhao Yuanjun on the bed suddenly ask. Today is Saturday, aren't you the one who? Doesn't you have to do homework? Yenyu was suddenly startled in her heart. This demon gate which has only been here for 3 days, and now she even knows about weekend vacation. Smarter than many private business owners. Master asked me to go out and do something, he said without looking back as he put on his shoes at the door. Can I follow along? Zhao Yuanjun's eyes lit up. Are you not afraid of Meingxue? Yenyu turned his head and asked with a smile. When it comes to Meingxue, Zhao Yuanjun immediately wilted like an eggplant beaten by frost and said resentfully. Well. Then you have to come back early. Yenyu sneered, without piercing the fairy's hypocrisy, and went straight out to take the subway. He is going to Qiantang River to watch the tide. On the original timeline, which was March 25th of this year, something hilarious happened. 2 tourists from the heavy cherry blossom country accidentally fell into the water while watching the Qiantang River tide, and were rescued by local patrol personnel half an hour later. Later, this incident was also featured as a key commendation case on the news program 2727 Silver Eyes. It wasn't until early May, when the Qiantang River was completely separated from the tide and the inverted tower below was exposed, that the authorities realized that the 2 heavy cherry blossom tourists were actually young masters who had come from afar to steal the treasures of the secret realm because they had found some information from ancient books. They infiltrated the secret realm at the bottom of the tide, took heavy treasures and left. When they surfaced, they saw the river patrol coming by boat. They were already prepared to use force to resist, but instead were rescued as foreign tourists who had fallen into the water. They were taken to the hospital for meticulous care, and even medical expenses were reimbursed through public accounts. How can this be said? Apart from, we have always been warm and hospitable to foreigners, there seems to be nothing else to say. If you want you to evaluate it, foreign tourists come from afar to visit famous scenic spots and historical sites at the bottom of the river. It's too impolite for you to patrol and take a boat to forcibly rescue them. You should let them enjoy the beautiful scenery at the bottom of the river and stay as long as you like, which is in line with our warm and hospitable national tradition. Maintaining international image still depends on me. The subway carriages of Line 5 were filled with people, and Yen Yu couldn't find a seat as he looked around. He could only find a wristband to hold onto it and skillfully reached for his phone with the other hand, starting to read a novel. Transfer to Line 2, then to Line 9, then the Intercity Railway, and finally the 332 bus, which takes nearly 3 hours. By the time you arrive at Haiping Tidal Park, it is already 12 noon. At the nearby Sichuan Lamian noodles shop, I ordered a bowl of beef Lamian noodles for 18 yuan, with only a few slices of beef as thin as cicada wings. The boss's knife skills are really amazing. When taking meat, it's probably not painful for that cow. You can cover the wound with a piece of gauze. Yen Yu wolfed down the noodles and felt the fierce fighting spirit burning in his heart. It took me a whole morning and I had a terrible lunch. If I don't leave you all at the bottom of the river and treat you well this time, I'll go back and slap the couple 3 times. Arriving at the Guanqiao Park, Yen Yu leaned his arms against the railing, his eyes full of hospitality, and the passers-by looked like heavy cherry blossom tourists. However, his gaze ultimately failed to recognize nationality. It wasn't until around 1 p.m. that the tide of the Qiantang River began to surge. Not far away, 2 heavy cherry blossom tourists wearing sun hats and carrying large backpacks are also observing the tide of the river and whispering in heavy cherry blossom language. Tanaka sang, "How long do you have to wait?" "Don't worry, Dashi Shang. According to the records left by my ancestors, it won't be until 3:15 p.m. that the tide of the Qianjiang River will be evenly distributed, revealing the inverted tower below. Is your record really okay? Of course, this record has been passed down from generation to generation in my family, and the writing date can be traced back to the reign of Emperor Nara. At that time, it was a time when a large number of bandits were rampant in the Ming dynasty, and my ancestors also plundered Celadon from the Ming dynasty. Taichi Tanaka stared at the surging tide and continued. It is said that my ancestors invaded the Qiantang River for the last time. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the tide suddenly split, and an inverted tower suddenly appeared in the tide, causing everyone to quickly turn the bow of the ship. Later, it was discovered that it was one of the twin towers that King Qian Chu of Wuyu had specially commissioned a senior monk to supervise the construction of in order to suppress the sea tide. The 6 Harmony Pagoda on land, 6 Fun Pagoda under the tide, below this tide is the 6 Fun Pagoda. The eye hub for suppressing the sea tide. After a moment of silence, Daisher Maofu said. Since the end of the legal era, the Liuha Pagoda by West Lake has long been empty. How can Tanaka Sang determine that the treasure in the Liuha Pagoda has not been plundered by the ancient people of the Land Kingdom in advance? Even if someone snatches us away early, we are just wasting our time and energy without any substantial loss. Taichi Tanaka disagrees, but if the treasure is still there, coupled with the fact that the land country is not yet aware of the revival of spiritual energy, there is a high probability that we can take it through customs and return to China. Endless fame and wealth will naturally roll in. You're right, then I'll bet you this one. The sun shines brightly on the gods, and they offer me divine food, giving me good luck. De Shirmao lightly patted his hands 3 times, closing his eyes and calling out the name of Tianzhao. At the 3rd quarter of noon, the Qiantang River suddenly arrived, and the tide became even more turbulent. The tide was as white as a horse and as bright as frost and snow, suddenly separating and washing away the two embankments, revealing the gray outline of the stone buildings in the middle. Right now. The two of them lit up their eyes and quickly climbed over the guardrail, jumping into the water under the frightened gaze of the surrounding tourists. 200 meters away, Yan Yu's gaze suddenly locked on the two of them at zhaoshuyuan.com, and his eyes quickly became sharp. Found you guys. He also climbed over the guardrail, jumped down, and fell into the water. Although the revival of spiritual energy is a global push, the order in which it actually comes is not the same. According to the tracing research of later generations, it should be related to the cognitive memes of traditional culture. In simple terms, the stronger the traditional historical and cultural atmosphere in the domestic society, the more rapid the revival of spiritual energy comes. In a sense, the revival of spiritual energy itself can also be considered as an idealistic drive. Due to the passage of Meiying-Xue, Lu Guo was actually exposed to the spiritual energy recovery itself early on. However, due to various reasons such as turning around in a difficult ship, Zibuyu's strange power is chaotic, and it's not just the heat of Qigong, his reaction was actually half a beat slow. The theft of treasure by the heavy cherry blossoms undoubtedly dealt a heavy blow to the still chaotic upper class, just like the tigers in Pearl Harbor, quickly suppressing the voices of opponents. However, even if this matter does have positive implications, Yan Yu has no intention of letting it happen. The reason is simple. Hidden in the Liuhe Pagoda at the bottom of the tide, it was a treasure used by the king of Wu and Yu in ancient times to suppress the tide of the Qiantang River, called Jianhedingdi Shenzhen Tai. It was cast during the reign of Emperor Yu in the past. In the years after this thing was stolen by Master Chongying Yin-Yang, the intensity of the Qiantang River tide rapidly increased. Not only Haiping County was the first to be affected, but the entire Jiangnan weaving plain was also threatened. Finally, they had to forcibly block the sea and build dams to barely protect the Jiangnan weaving plain. Yan Yu quickly fell in the tide, looking at the two figures swimming towards the collapsed tower in the distance, with a warm smile on his face. Two international friends, let me take a moment to show my hospitality as a landlord. Chapter 9. Hospitalizing International Friends. You are listening at Novel Full.Audio. Tanaka sang, someone is following behind. Wait until you enter the secret realm before killing him. Near the inverted tower, Yan Yu passed through the shimmering water film and then landed steadily on the riverbed. This 6-point tower secret realm has been opened up into a separate small cave with air to breathe in and gravity within the normal range. Yan Yu looked ahead again, and those two people were nowhere to be seen. My gaze quickly scanned the surroundings, and with just one glance, a rough map of the secret realm was immediately drawn from my mind. The surrounding environment is the bottom of the river, with little shelter. The two yin and yang masters on the opposite side were likely aware that they were following behind, so they rushed into the inverted tower first after entering the secret realm. Yan Yu sneered in his heart for a moment and activated the divine action technique. Let's go. 100 meters away, as if passing by in an instant, he had reached the bottom of the inverted tower. This 6-part tower is heavy on top and light on the bottom, with its tip inserted into the soil, while the entrance is above the wide top of the tower. Yan Yu rushed to the bottom of the tower with his divine technique and quickly switched to the cloud climbing technique. His feet clicked several times in the air, and his whole body rose like anti-gravity. Feng Su ascends to the sky, soaring up. At the edge of the doorway at the top of the tower, Daisher Maofu pinched the formula with both hands. His right eye had turned red, which was the first reading technique of the heavy cherry blossom secret technique. Looking far was like observing close, and the cave was as small as observing fire. At this point, Yan Yu's body had been firmly locked. It's the 10,000-mile divine journey technique and the wind-climbing cloud technique of the land kingdom, he shouted with a trembling voice and an indescribable impatience in his words. Tanaka sang. The person who came here is a serious monk. It's probably from the army of the Land Kingdom. Whether it's the military or not. Taichi Tanaka took out his talisman from his waist with both hands and shouted fiercely, as long as he's told to die under this river, who cares about his background? Go ahead, sickle weasel. The talisman paper in his hand ignited without wind, quickly transforming into a white mouse, wrapped in a gust of wind from top to bottom. His hands and claws were as sharp as blades, killing Yan Yu, who was performing the cloud climbing technique. Seeing the white mouse descending in the wind, revealing its killing intent, Yan Yu immediately had a clear idea in his mind. Ah, it's a Pokémon player. No, it's a yin and yang master who controls the Shirshin. After the revival of spiritual energy, there are many schools of thought for the yin and yang masters of Chongying, among which the Shirshin flow belongs to the type that is easy in the early stage but has a lower upper limit in the later stage. There is no other reason. As long as the controlling deity dies, the combat power of the yin-yang master is greatly weakened. Yan Yu landed under the reverse eaves at the edge of the inverted tower, and once again thrust upwards with force. The cloud climbing technique had already dissipated in the air, and he quickly grasped the Taoist formula. It's the flame curse. Be careful. Daisher Maofu used the first reading technique to read that Yan Yu was casting the flame curse and quickly reminded his companions loudly. The raging flames rising out of nowhere happened to block the path that the sickle weasel must pass through, causing the white mouse to instinctively fear the high temperature of the wild beast and forcefully restrain its momentum as it moved at high speed. Then it suddenly exploded in the air, blood and white hair streaming down. Chong curse, exclaimed Daisher Maofu in terror. He used the flames of the flame curse to conceal the doji gesture and secretly cut the Chong curse. Damn it! Taichi Tanaka scolded angrily, can you report it quickly? His own style god, Kamikaze Itachi, was killed in front of him, but he felt extremely heartbroken. However, Daisher Maofu did not refute, his face turned pale, and his heart had already harbored a sense of departure. Run, Yen, Chu, Xiang, Chong, the 5 elements mantra of the Land Kingdom, are also recorded in his family's historical records. It's actually not difficult to use, the difficulty is that practitioners can only cast one spell at a time. Therefore, how to combine these 5 mantras in a coherent manner and form effective tactics can highlight the level of practitioners. The opponent's set of 2 combos is to first use the fire inflammation curse to scare off the sickle weasel. At the moment when the Shirshin stopped attacking, the opposite side also stopped using the fury curse, and took advantage of the moment when the flames were about to dissipate, switched the chi path inside the body to the gold charge curse. The sharp aura of the golden line emitted was obscured by residual flames. At the moment when the flames dissipated, the Chong curse happened to pass through it, so as not to collide and cancel out with the flame curse. It could also make the kamikaze unable to react in time and be directly hit and killed. Behind the changes between the rise and fall of the rabbit is a perfect grasp of the timing of the coordination of moves. Not to mention, the other party is still in a state of floating weightlessness at this time. How strong eyesight and reaction speed are needed to accurately hit the Shirshin on the opposite side of the flame with a charging spell blind shot, even though their line of sight is also blocked by the flame. This person must be a practitioner of the military of the land country, and he must also be the strongest elite group. Perhaps he was transferred from an Air Force pilot. And neither he nor Taichi Tanaka has received formal military training, he is just a folk yin-yang teacher of Sakura. How can he compete with such military personnel? Tanaka sang. Seeing Taichi Tanaka still touching the talisman paper, Shigeru Ohashi quickly said, let's go down to the tower first, and then ambush him. Taichi Tanaka pondered for a moment and said, okay. He did not have the first reading technique of Daisher Maofu, and at this time did not notice the ingenuity in the connection between the opponent's 2 moves. He only felt that he could kill his sickle weasel in one face, and the attacking enemy was probably not ordinary people. It was best to avoid direct confrontation with the enemy. Yan Yu used the technique of riding the wind and climbing the clouds. A few rabbits rose and fell, and then climbed up to the top layer along the reverse eaves of the inverted tower. Knowing that two international friends had already hidden inside the tower, their footsteps did not stop and they quickly entered the tower through the doorway. Suddenly entering the room from the outside, the change in light made his vision suddenly dim. Before he could fully adapt, a low howling wind had already sounded in his ears. Another deity of Taichi Tanaka was the Yiksha ghost, with a blue face and fangs. He held a sharp steel fork and lurked in the shadow of the doorway. Taking advantage of Yan Yu's entry into the tower, he quietly flapped his wings and approached from behind. The steel fork quickly and fiercely stabbed at the back of his head. With just a ding sound, the steel fork suddenly stopped a few inches away from the target. Despite the low roar and roar of the night fork ghost, it still couldn't move in. Yan Yu just extended two fingers and easily pressed against the sharp tip of the steel fork. His fingers emitted a gray glow on the surface, like hard rocks deep in the mountains. Elephant Curse. The cursor is invincible with knives and guns, and is difficult to harm with water and fire. Taichi Tanaka once again drew out 3 talismans and exerted all his strength to urge the Yiksha ghost to attack with all his might. He was well aware that although the Tuxing Elephant Curse was invincible, its consumption of true elements was also exaggerated, and the opponent could not maintain an invincible state all the time. Daisher Maofu withdrew his suffering and quickly used the technique of shadow escape, transforming into an imperceptible shadow that disappeared from Yan Yu's sight. The technique of shadow escape. This person is actually a ninja. Yan Yu remained calm and composed, his right hand suddenly turning from a finger to a claw, and he flexibly grasped the handle of the steel fork that had not opened its edge. His left hand lightning changed the magic path technique. Curse. The caster of the spell has boundless power, like a green pine breaking through a mountain rock. Under his sudden increase in strength, the night fork ghost had no strength to fight back. Yan Yu grabbed the steel fork and threw it over his shoulder, hitting the large stone Maofu who was about to sneak attack him. Taichi Tanaka, who looked far away, was stunned. Shouldn't the shadow escape technique be visually invisible when used? Why could he find out the location of Daishamofu? Yiksha ghost hit Daishamofu and found Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com. One person, one in one form, was knocked out by force. Yan Yu's right hand merges his sword fingers again, charge. The sharpness of Jin Xing's aura shot out like a bullet, rapidly penetrating the bodies of Yiksha ghost and Ushi Maofu. The former suddenly exploded into fragments, while the latter suffered from chest bleeding. He covered the wound and stumbled back half a step, his body immediately engulfed by flames. But after Yan Yu cast the Chong curse, he seamlessly connected and released another flame curse. A blazing flame rose from behind Daishamofu, and he was struck by the power of the curse, causing his body to lose balance. He couldn't stop retreating and happened to hit the range of the flame curse, without even a chance to dodge. Daishamofu transformed into a fiery figure, struggling in panic under the burning pain, howling mournfully and rolling to the ground. Tanaka Tianyi lost 2 Shirshin gods in a row, and finally recognized the huge power gap between the enemy and us. He let out a frightened scream, and even abandoned his companions and fled down to the next level. I can't beat it. How could it possibly pass? The 5 elements true character mantra cannot be cast simultaneously, this is an iron law. How can a person's body run 2 true elemental paths simultaneously? The opponent's sword chi burning like a flowing stream of clouds is actually achieved by casting the Chong curse, stopping the Chong curse, and casting the flame curse in a very short period of time. Considering that the true elemental roots of the 2 spells are completely different and can achieve a seamless switching level, it can only be said that this guy has already practiced the 5 elements true character curse to a level that is as thoughtless as breathing. Such a guy, it's impossible to beat him. Tanaka Taichi was torn between the liver and the gallbladder, and he fled continuously for several layers, only feeling a sudden pain in his back. His body had already been pierced by a curse. Subsequently, the field of vision was also surrounded by the rising flames. Chapter 10. Self-Sealing. You are listening at Novel Full.Audio. After handling the scene casually, Yenyu finally left the secret realm and surfaced. Soon, a patrol officer sailed over to confirm his identity. After learning that he was not a heavy cherry blossom tourist who fell into the water, the patrol officer was clearly disappointed, but still pulled him onto the boat and arranged for someone to take care of him on the shore. Every year, tourists accidentally fall into the water while watching the Qiantang River tide, and everyone is already accustomed to it. Seeing the patrols so dedicated, Yenyu couldn't bear to tell them that the two international friends had already fallen asleep at the bottom of the Qiantang River, so as not to feel sad and self-blame for it. Oh, when can I change my gentle personality? Yenyu, who was soaked like a drowned rat, retrieved her phone from a nearby supermarket locker and silently boarded the bus, transferred to the subway, and then transferred to the subway, completely ignoring the surprised gazes of passengers around her. Returning to the community, going upstairs, opening the door with the key, and returning home, Zhao Yuanjun in the living room was relieved of her invisibility spell, and her expression was noticeably relieved. "You've finally come back," she asked tentatively with a pleasing smile. "Did your trip go smoothly?" Yenyu locked the door from the inside and sneered, "What do you think?" He felt a few times from his pocket and found a silver white stone the size of an egg, then casually threw it to Zhao Yuanjun. "What is this?" Zhao Yuanjun asked in confusion. "Tianhedingdi Shenzhen iron," Yenyu replied. Zhao Yuanjun shook his hands and almost dropped this thing. He asked in a trembling voice. "Is it the Tianhedingdi divine treasure iron used by ancient Dayu to control floods?" Yenyu nodded and said, "There are two young people plotting this thing. I was ordered by my respected teacher to remove it. This is the spare material I picked up from the secret realm." Zhao Yuanjun. Respected teacher. Where did you pick up this disciple? Can I also go and take a look? Tianhedingdi divine treasure iron, even in her cultivation world, this thing is also one of the rarest heavenly and earthly treasures. Because the vast majority of them are used to suppress water veins and springs, once taken away, it can cause floods and generate extremely terrifying karmic power, so everyone dares not touch them. The very few that can circulate among cultivators are mainly the backup materials, preserved in certain water vein secret realms. In ancient times, Dayu deliberately left them, for emergency needs. The probability should not be high. Anyway, Zhao Yuanjun has never seen them in the market, so it is estimated that he skipped the public sales process and was secretly purchased by famous sections. She stared eagerly at the divine iron in her hand, only to hear Yenyu ask again. "Is it enough to make each of us a puppet with this thing?" "Enough, enough." Zhao Yuanjun nodded hurriedly. This Tianhedingdi divine treasure iron is a peculiar object, which can be large or small, light or heavy. With only 2 yang of it as the puppet's mind, I can teach the puppet 1,000 jun of tremendous power, comparable to the power of a cultivator. I can grind the excess Tianhedingdi divine treasure iron into powder, mix it with ordinary iron, and cast the skeleton around the puppet's body, fearless of any water movement techniques from now on. Stop it. Yenyu finally couldn't help but curse, "You despicable women. These heavenly and earthly treasures should be used as puppets, and other heavenly and earthly treasures should be used to match them. What kind of mortal iron is in your mind?" Zhao Yuanjun was stunned and then argued for a while. "Where are so many heavenly and earthly treasures? Make a complete puppet. Just because you can't get it, doesn't mean I can't get it," Yenyu said proudly, holding her chest in both hands. "You should first use it as your mind, and the other parts should be made of ordinary materials to make puppets. After obtaining a new Tiankai and Dibao, the original ordinary material components will be replaced. As for what, grinding into powder and mixing with ordinary iron, is really foolish, don't mention it again in the future." Zhao Yuanjun was also surprised. What a big tone this little thief has. It is the supreme elder of the Silk Gate who wields a puppet with only about 10% of its body material, which can be considered as heavenly and earthly treasures, and is mostly mixed with ordinary materials in order to maximize its strength. From what this little thief means, it seems like he wants to create a puppet entirely composed of heavenly materials and earthly treasures. What a big breath, I'm not afraid of flashing your tongue. Although she had a heart to mock a few words, she could only swallow her anger and silently remember in her heart that this little thief had the support of a powerful master behind him. Today, the thief went to find the heavenly and earthly treasures to make a puppet for me, and even humiliated me as a despicable woman. I will take note of this grudge. If I rise to power one day, I will turn around and humiliate him severely, making him cry and cry. I regret not having done it before. Well, it seems like there's something wrong anyway, it's always true that he humiliated me. This revenge is not to be avenged, my surname is not Zhao. Seeing Zhao Yuanjun's uncertain whether, Yan didn't know that she had started to be unpredictable again and sneered, saying, "What are you thinking about that you shouldn't be thinking about again?" Zhao Yuanjun was immediately aroused and quickly smiled in defense, saying, "As both Taoists, we should have supported each other. This time, we brought back the Tianhedingdi divine treasure iron. I appreciate you for not being able to do it in time. How could we blame you for hating you? I didn't say you're blaming me or hating me, you're just doing it yourself." Yan Yu immediately laughed back in anger and reached out to grab Zhao Yuanjun's cheeks on both sides, roughly kneading them like clay. What an unfamiliar demon girl. I'll bring you natural materials and treasures, be your Taoist priest, help you cultivate both, and provide you with a shelter. Which of them lacks you in the realm of wealth and magic? How dare you still remember my grudges? The nest is different. There is no nest. The nest is unjust. Zhao Yuanjun was grabbed by him on his cheek, unable to speak clearly. He could only tear up his eyes, mutter and beg for mercy, and his neck and ears turned red. The face and texture of this demon gate witch are really good. Not only can they blow and break, but with just a little force, they turn pale and red. Even Yan Yu didn't intend to punish her much, so he couldn't help but pinch her a few more times. Zhao Yuanjun finally broke free from his clutches, feeling angry, resentful, and angry in his heart. However, thinking that this guy would calculate his own thoughts, he dared not continue to curse and slander him. He just wiped away his tears, turned around, kicked off his slippers, and climbed onto the bed. He crawled into the blanket. "You can bully me relentlessly with the support of your master. I can't do anything about you, can't I hide?" Seeing Yuanjunma Emperor choose to shrink his eggs, Yan Yu smiled happily and went to the bathroom to take a shower. After he finished taking a shower, changed into dry clothes, and came out to look for Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com. He saw that the TV was playing, and Zhao Yuanjun was huddled under the blanket like a turtle, only revealing a small opening while secretly watching TV. When she saw the bathroom door pushed open, she immediately let out a whoosh and shrouded her head in the blanket again, unable to come out. Self-sealing, Xuanwu's secret technique. Yan Yu naturally wouldn't be confused by the little actions of this witch, because he knew well that the Yuanjun demon emperor was already bullying the weak and afraid of the hard. At this time, he pretended to be pitiful because he believed he was weak. If she were to discover the truth, this demon gate witch would surely reveal her fangs, show her ferocity, and not spit out a single bone even if she eats people. In short, although you are weak and pure, if I soften my heart a little, even if I lose. Yan Yu turned off the TV and sat by the bed, taking out his phone to see if the heavy cherry blossom tourists watching the Qiantang River tide and falling into the water had made it to the news. As a result, no news was found, but someone was adding him as a friend. His profile picture was a lively and cute cartoon puppy with a simple stroke, and the note was Chen Lingyun. Yan Yu frowned. What does this scumbag woman want to do? He gave a fierce refusal. After a while, a new friend application came again. Reject. Refuse, refuse, refuse. Yan Yu refused all of them, and Chen Lingyun persisted. She sent him more than 20 friend requests in a row, which made him lose his temper. Forget it, let's pass it first. Chen Lingyun. Yan Yu's friend is really difficult to add. Conquering people with virtue. Sorry, I have installed an anti-harassment plugin. It may be that the plugin mistook you for a tea seller and automatically rejected the application. Chen Lingyun. So there are still plugins like this. Can you also send me an installation package? Across from the phone, Chen Lingyun smiled wildly, her eyebrows and eyes turning into curved crescents.